Today's daf, Be'ezus Hashem, is Masechta Sanhedrin, Daf Nun Vav 56. And we're going to begin from the Mishnah on Daf Nun Hey Amud Beis, new topic. So Nun Hey Amud Beis, and we're discussing one of the way we kill somebody through skila, and that is Hamagadev. He curses God, so to speak. Now, why would somebody curse God? Obviously, he's angry at God and he feels that he's being mistreated by God. What I find fascinating is that if someone is an atheist, he doesn't believe in God at all, we have no problem with that. I mean, we don't put him to death. But if he actually cursed God, so to speak, he's chayiv skila. Interesting. Eina chayev ad sheyafarish Hashem, until he expresses the name of God. The name of God is Yud Kei Vav Kei, and therefore the subject is that Yud Kei Vav Kei should be cursed, so to speak. And we're going to use the word as Beirach Hashem. Now, one of the things about cursing God is like you have to say Yud Kei Vav Kei should smite Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's how it goes. So Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha says, B'chol Yom, we go on the page Nun Vav Amud Aleph. B'chol Yom, during the judgment trial, we don't want to hear the Eidim say, "Oh, he said Yud Kei Vav Kei," and they keep repeating Yud Kei Vav Kei all the time in the Bezdin. That's an insult to God's name. So how do they discuss the case? B'chol Yom, Don as Eidim, they question the witnesses. Bikinoi, they reference God's name, as the guy said that the one on trial said Yake Yosi es Yosi. Yosi is a way to say God's name because it has four letters. Yud Kei Vav Kei. It has four letters, and also it has the gematria of Elokim. Rashi says. So they when the Eidim say, "Oh, he said Yake Yosi es Yosi," that God should smite God, so to speak. So that's the curse, and they discuss that. So they discuss that. But Nigmar Hadin, here Nigmar Hadin does not mean they finished the trial. They're about to finish the trial. Nigmar Din usually means they finished it already. But Nigmar Din, they're about to finish the trial. They have to actually hear the Eidim say what they heard from the person on trial. That he actually said, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Yaka, Yud Kei Vav Kei. So loy hargim bekina, they cannot kill just because the Eidim are just using a reference to God's name. They have to hear exactly what the Eidim heard from the person on trial. Ella, so in order not to shame God's name, moitziim kol adam lechutz, they ask the spectators in the courtroom to leave. And sha'alin esagadol, then the court will ask the oldest one, right? I guess the older of the two witnesses, Shebeneim, v'aymeloi, Emma Masha Shemata Beferish. Say it outright what you heard from the person on trial. What came out of that person's mouth. And he's going to say, I heard from that person's mouth that he said, Yakeh, let it be smitten, Yosi, as Yosi. He says, Yud Kei Vav Kei should smite Yosi, should smite Yud Kei Vav Kei. But anyway, he has to say the word Yud Kei Vav Kei the way it's written. And once they hear that, the Dayanim hear the word Yud Kei Vav Kei, Vu Oimar, he says it, the Dayanim oindim al ragleim, the Dayanim stand on their feet, v'koirin, they rip their clothing, v'loy ma'achin, and they don't sew that clothing back. It's like a kriya, because they heard God's names taken in vain, or something like that. Now, the witnesses don't have to rip their clothing, because they already ripped their clothing when they heard it from the person on trial. So that was witness number one. Witness number two, V'sheni Aime, he will not repeat it, but he'll say, Afani Kamoihu, I agree with what witness number one said, but he's not going to say it. V'ashlishi Aime, if there's a third witness, Afani Kamoihu, I'm going to be a witness, and I'm also heard it from the person's mouth, and I'm agreeing with what witness number one said. So Tana, we learned in a Braisa. How do you know? How do you know what it means? How do you know you're not allowed to curse God? Tana we learned in the Braisa. Ad sheyivarach shein b'shen. The way to be held accountable for the death penalty, you have to curse God with another name, with the real name of God. So Yud Kei Vav Kei should smite Yud Kei Vav Kei. How do you know that's the way it's done? Amar Shmuel, because Shmuel says, let's read the pasuk on the screen. The pasuk says, "V'noikiv." There was somebody that cursed God, right? It says, "Vayikav ben ishi Hashem vayikalel vayiviyo Yisrael Moshe v'shem imoy shloimis basriv rimatidam." So there was somebody who did this yikov business, and the Torah tells us, "V'noikiv shem Hashem." That someone who does noikev, which is cursing God, the name of God, he should be stoned to death, right? And kager ka'ezrach, only a Jew, like a Jew that's not a converted Gentile who converted to Judaism, or ka'ezrach, or a regular Jew from birth, they have the same din. But nakvei shem, if they curse God, they die. Now, but nakvei shem, so that's how you read it. V'noikev shem Hashem, if you curse the name of God through another name of God. So basically, that's the way you do it. Yud Kei Vav Kei should curse Yud Kei Vav Kei. So now, Mimai, how would you know, back into the Gemara, Mimai, how do you know the high Noikev Lishna de Baruchehu? How do you know the word Noikev means that you're cursing God? Well, the Gemara uses the word blessing God. How do you know that it means? The Ksiv, it says in the Pasuk, Mo Ekev Lekabekel. Bilam said, whatever God curses, I can't curse. So we see the word Ekev means cursing. And the violation, the warning not to do that is because the pasuk says in another place in Parshas Mishpatim next week, Elehim lo yisakalel, God you should not curse. So that's the end. That's the answer. Says the Gemara, how do you know v'noikev means to curse? Maybe it means don't stab God. Now, how are you going to stab God? If you have the name of God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, on a paper, you can't stab a knife through it. The Ksiv, vayikav chor bedalta, he stabbed a hole into the door. It's a pasuk. So yikav could also mean draw a hole. And how do you know you're not allowed to erase God's name that way? There will be a lav, vibatem eshmam, you're supposed to erase the Avodah Zarah's name, but don't do that to God's name. So how do you know that this Vayikov means not allowed to curse God? And says the Gemara, Be'ina Shem B'Shem B'Leikim. But the Torah tells us that V'noikiv Shem B'Shem, you have to curse God. You have to do something with the name of God to the name of God. And if it's just stabbing with a knife, then that's not doing something with the name of God to the name of God. You only have one name of God that you're stabbing in the paper. You're just stabbing something into the paper. The Ema, so the Gemara says, maybe you write the name of God on two pieces of paper, and the Manach Shnei Shim is Ahad Adadi. Maybe it means don't put two names of God one on top of another, Ubazalu, and you stab with it. So the Gemara says, that's not stabbing the name of God with the name of God. Ahu noikiv, it's stabbing God, so to speak. V'choiz of a noikiv, and then you re-stab it. So that's not what the pasuk means. The Ema, let us say, maybe the pasuk means the choyek shem apume desakina. You write, so to speak, God's name. You engrave the name of God on a knife, and then you stab another name of God on a piece of paper. Ubazabahu. And says the Gemara, ahu churfi desakina hu de kabaza. It's the sharpness of the knife that's doing the stabbing. It's not the name of God stabbing the other name of God. The only way that can happen is if we're referring to the expression of somebody blessing God, so to speak, by using Yud Kei Vav Kei, should bless Yud Kei Vav Kei. Says the Gemara, how do you know v'noikev? Again, we're trying to understand what does v'noikev mean. Maybe it means don't say God's name in vain. Ema perusha shmehu. Maybe it means expressing God's name. Diksiv vayikach Moshe v'Aharon eis hanoshim ha'ela asher nikvu b'shemesh. Nikvu means that were expressed by the names. And the violation, a warning, is from this pasuk. You have to fear the name of God and not say it in vain. So maybe that v'noikev means expressing God's name in vain. And says the Gemara Chada, Devina Shem B'Shem B'Leika. Again, one name of God has to do something to the other name of God. And if it meant that just saying God's name, that doesn't explain the meaning of the verse, which says you're doing something with the name of God to the name of God, and that cannot mean other than you're blessing God with the name of God. Void, another pasuk, if you're going to try to tell me that it means expressing God's name in vain, and the Torah is telling you get the death penalty for that, then the Torah has to say don't do that. and with a lav, with a not to do that. And if you're going to say it's expressing God's name, the pasuk is saying Es Hashem Elokecha Tira. It's only in a action form. Fear, you should fear God, and it's understood not to do that. But that's not the way warnings and death penalties occur in the Torah. First, the Torah tells you don't do something, and then the Torah says because you're going to do that, you're going to get the death penalty. The Ibayasem, if you want, I could say Almakra Vayikav Vayikal. The pasuk really does say Vayikav, and then he cursed. This Bene Isha Israeli. So we see the Vayikav means and he cursed, as you see on the screen. Vidilma Lememba the Noikav Klali, it tells you that the word Noikav means he cursed. Vidilma Ada Abetrave, maybe it means Vayikav Vayikal means not Vayikal is explaining what Vayikav means, but maybe you have to do both. Say God's name in vain, and then curse God. You have to do both, but not in one sentence. And so the Gemara you can't think that way. The Torah tells you that we're giving him the death penalty and take him out because he cursed. The pasuk doesn't say the Torah didn't tell you that let's take him the cursor and the one who expressed God's name because he did two averis and stone him. The Torah just says we're taking the guy who cursed and stoning him. So because of that, the word noikev again means curse. So the source of getting the death penalty for somebody who curses God is the noikev Shem Hashem, and you have to curse God with the name of God, so to speak, with benakve Shem. So it repeats it twice in the pasuk. Okay, now we go into another topic. To Torah Rabbanan, what about a goy? Torah Rabbanan, we learned in the Brayos. Ishma Talmud Loimel. It says, Ish ki yakal alakav v'nosachatoy. If you curse your God, you carry a sin. There's another pasuk. Now the question is, Ish. Why does it say Ish twice? And says the Gemara, Rabbis is going. A goy is not allowed to curse at God. Shemuzharim abishkesh Hashem ki Yisrael. They have a commandment not to bless God like a Jewish person. The ein in a harag, but they don't get skila they don't get stoned to death. The ein in a harogan elabasayif, they get the knife, the cherev, but not the skila. Shekol hamisa hamura b'vnei noach. Anytime we try to put a death penalty on a goy, ein elabasayif, we give him only the knife. Says the Gemara. We learn it from that pasuk. The pasuk says another pasuk that we learn all Sheva mitzvahs b'nei noach, which we'll learn later on today. And there the Torah says on Birkas Hashem, the Torah gives you another pasuk. How do we know a goy is not allowed to curse God? Is another pasuk. So why do I need this pasuk? Ish ki yakal alakav, that a goy is not allowed to curse God. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Napcha, Rabbi Yitzchak Napcha explained, Le nitzrucha, this was only taught El Rabbis Akinuyim, V'aliba de Rab Meir, because only according to Rab Meir. Because what happens? You say Yud Kei Vav Kei should curse one of the other names of God. Let's Elikim, Shaddai, Tzavakos. As you can see, there are other nicknames of God that we use. What do you get the death penalty? So Rab Meir says yes, and because a Jew gets the death penalty, ish will include a goy getting the death penalty, and that's what you learn. And that is that first brisa of Torah Rabbanan is according to Rab Meir. Tanya, we learned in the brisa ish any person ki yakal elakov that curses God v'nosacheta, he gets the same avera and he gets skila. Mal Talmud loima. Why does this pasuk add? If it says if you curse God, you get the death penalty. So why does the pasuk seem to repeat it? Because the pasuk says, you must. Maybe you only chayiv the death penalty only if you say Yud Kei Vav Kei should smite, should curse or hit Yud Kei Vav Kei. How do I know to include any of the other nicknames, so to speak, of God? How do you know if you say Yud Kei Vav Kei should Yakeh Elikim, Shakai, Tzavakos? How do you know you get that death penalty? Talmud Loime, Ishki, Kalalakav, Mikol Malkav. Whenever you curse whatever name of God, then you still get the death penalty. Div Rab Meir. This is the opinion of Rab Meir. But Chachamim say no, not true. Hashem and Yuchad b'misa. If you're going to curse God, curse the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, then you get the death penalty. Vala kinuyim, but if you're going to get the kinuyim, if you're only going to curse one of the other names of God, then ba'azara you get a negative commandment, plus you get kares. So that brisa that says ish ish Rabbi Sadakav goes according to Rab Meir. That's Mar Bagoy. That just like a yid will get the death penalty of skila if he curses the UK, if he curses one of the kinuyim. So also a goy will get the death penalty if he curses one of the kinuyim of God. Upligid Rabbi Yashia. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka will argue against Rabbi Yashia, because according to Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka, his understanding is that the kinuyim, according to the Chachamim, will not get the death penalty. But the Amr Yashe Ben Noach, everybody understands, will not get the death penalty if a Yid does it, and even a Goy, Chachamim will hold that a Goy will not get the death penalty on the kinuyim. But Yashi will say, the Amr Yashe Ben Noach Shabir Hashem be kinuyim lerabanan chayev. Even though a Jew that curses God with the kinuyim will not get the death penalty, but according to Rabbanan, the way Rabbi Yashi understands it, the Rabbanan will hold that a Ben Noach was worse, and if he curses one of the kinuyim of God, he will get the death penalty. My timer, what's the reason for that? Amakra, because the pasuk says keger ke'ezrach, that the Torah tells you that a ger ke'ezrach, a Jew, gets this death penalty. Only a Jew needs actually to curse Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Even a goy, if he just curses the kinui of God, he will get the death penalty. And Rab Meir, according to the way Rab Yashi understood Rab Meir, because according to Rab Meir, the Jew and the goy get the death penalty. What's unique about a Jew that a goy doesn't have? Regarding this inyan of cursing God, he'll learn it. Ger ve'ezrach b'skila, av a goy b'sayif. A goy will only get the knife; he won't get skila, but he'll get the death penalty because since a goy is included to be like a Jew when it comes to cursing God, I might think you would step him up and that he would get the death penalty of skila. Kamash Malon, he will not get the death penalty of skila; he will only get the death penalty of sayif. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka, Alibid Rabbanim, according to Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka, that according to Rabbanim, a goy gets nothing, right, for cursing the kinuyim of God. What is unique about a Jew over a goy? That the Ke'er Ke'ezrach stresses that this din only applies by a Jew, not by a goy. What do you learn from that? According to Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka's understanding, that the Rabbanim will hold that the goy has one chumrah over a Jew. A Jew, in order to be chayev, according to Rabbanan, have to say Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Yake, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. But a goy, he doesn't. All he has to do is Yake, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. He doesn't have to say Yud-Kei Vav-Kei should Yake, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Now, Ish Lamali. Then what do we need Ish? And this question is according to both Rabbi Yashir and both Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka, according to Rabbanan. To learn that a goy is to teach you a goy is chayiv for birkas Hashem. That I have another pasuk. He's chayiv sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. Kinuyim you learn from Ger ve'ezrach according to Rabbi Yashia, and according to Rabbi Yitzchak, he says that kinuyim are a potter according to Rabbanan. For a goy is potter for kinuyim. So why does the Torah say ish? The Torah sometimes repeats the word like people sometimes repeat themselves. So ish, you don't necessarily have any drasha. Okay, very new topic and a very important topic. Tan Rabbanan, Sheva mitzvahs nestava b'nei Noach. There's 7 mitzvahs for the b'nei Noach. Dinim ubirkas Hashem avodah zara gilei arayos shvichas damim v'gazav even echai. So dinim means that they have to set up courthouses. Birkas Hashem, they're not allowed to bless God. Avodah zara gilei arayos, and killing and stealing, and Aver Menachai. They have this Isser Aver Menachai, cut up off a limb of an animal. Arayas is dafka by a married woman. That's called the Gili Arayas by a goy. We go to Amid Beis. Rab Chananya ben Gamla oime af aladom menachai. They're not allowed to eat blood from a live animal. Rab Chitcha oime af alaseris. They're not allowed to sterilize an animal or anybody. They're not allowed to do sterilization. Rab Shimon says af al kishif on sorcery. Rabbi Yossi says, Kol ha'ama b'pashus kisha b'nein. Any time it says that a Jew is not allowed to do certain types of sorcery, magic, ben noyach muzar alam. A goy is not allowed to do it. Because the pasuk says, "Lo yimatze b'chol ma'ave b'noy b'ite be'esh koisim kusamim ma'inu menachesh mechashes v'choy v'cheva v'shel oiv yadoni v'dar shel mesim." They can't, bring up the dead and do all sorts of black magics. That's why the Eibishter threw them out of the land of Israel, because they were doing all sorts of black magic. So since a Jew is not allowed to do it, a Goy is not allowed to do it. And the Torah warned them not to do it. So it must be that the Goy, we have a tradition that a Goy is also asur on black magic. Rabbi Lazar says, Afali Kalayim, a Goy is not allowed to do Kalayim. Now, Mutarim b'nei Noach Lilbush Kalayim is Roya Kalayim. They're allowed to plant a Kalayim, and they're allowed to put on, a clothing made of wool and linen. Be'ein Asurim, the only Isser for a Goy regarding Kalayim is Helabois Behema, bringing two, grafting two, bringing together two different animals to mate. They're not allowed to do that. Uvaharkovas Ilan, and grafting trees, two different types of trees. They cannot graft them together. Okay, so we have this concept of a goy is asur on the Sheva mitzvahs. Okay, the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. How do we know that there are 7 mitzvahs? Now, the way to remember it is very simple. The Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach, the first 3 are what a Jew has to give up his life. Avodah Zarah, Gilei Arayos, Shirkas Damim. Now, what's the next 4? Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet. Aleph stands for Eva Menachai. Beis stands for Birchas Hashem, which is another way of saying cursing Hashem, as we said, Birchas Hashem. Gimel is Gezel. And Dalet is Dinim, which means they have to set up courthouses. So, now you know they have 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. So the Gemara question is, how do I know that there are 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach? Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, the Amakra, because the pasuk says, God commanded the first man, from all the trees you can eat. So we darshan like this, V'itzav elu adinim. It's a commandment. Basically, this pasuk is a way to remember all the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. And everybody knows that pasuk, so they hint to all the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach in that pasuk. But really, it's just a tradition that there are 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. Vayitzav elu hadinim, that refers to doing judgments. So the word tzav refers to a hint for setting up courthouses. Hashem, Zubikas Hashem, Elakim teaches you Avodah Zarah. Al ha'adam zu shvichas damen, that you're not allowed to kill another human being. Lemar zu gilei reis. So the word lemar hints to gilei reis. We call eitz hagan v'loy gazel, from all the trees of the garden, not stolen, not gezel. So again, from this one pasuk, it's a way to remember all the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. That's how Rabbi Yochanan learned it. Rabbi Yitzchak came from the class of Rabbi Yochanan. He had a tradition. Rabbi Yochanan said something else. Vayitzav doesn't refer to dinim. That's avodah zarah. Elohim zidinim. Bishlam Elohim zidinim nikra balabayis Elohim. I understand that Elohim means dinim because we find in the Parshas Mishpatim that the word Elohim refers to the court, the judge. Vayitzav zu avodah zarah my mashma. Where do you see the word vayitzav to refer to avodah zarah? So how do you know this vayitzav? The beginning of the pasuk refers to avodah zarah. So then we have a machlekes. Rav Chizda, Rav Yitzchak, Bar Avdini. Chad Omar, sorry, Marhem Edecha Shivisem, also lehem. The Chad Omar, Oshuk Ephraim, Rotzutz Mishpat, Kahoyel Holach Achar Tzav. Ephraim crushed judgment because he wanted to run after the tzav. So he ran after doing the avodah zarah. So one learned tzvisem means when it says by the egel that the Jews strayed from the path, and that God commanded, and they made an egel. And one pasuk says they actually served, and worshipped idols. So my benayu, what's the difference? Which pasuk you learn that a guy is asur from avodah zarah? And says Gemara, there's a big difference. Goy she'asa avodah zarah v'lo yishtacha v'lo. If he made an avodah zarah and didn't bow down to it, the man de'ama asa m'shas asiyah machai. According to if you learn it from one pasuk by the egel, then all just by making an avodah zarah, a guy would be chayiv misa. But according to the opinion that you actually from the other pasuk, then a guy is only chayiv misa only if he worshipped the avodah zarah. Another 2 minutes, and we'll stop. Is there such a mandi amma that says that a guy that makes an avodah zarah and didn't bow to it will be held liable? For Tanya, we learned to the brisa, when a Jewish court will give the death penalty to a Jew, then a guy is not allowed to do that. Ein bezin Yisrael mimsin aleim. If the Jewish court will not kill a person because of it, ein bezin noyach muzar aleim. Then a guy is not in violation. Lemute mai. What does this exclude? Lav lemute. This excludes goy she'asa avodah zarah. If a guy just made an avodah zarah, didn't worship it, v'lo yishtachav v'lo, he didn't bow to it, he's not going to get the death penalty. So what does this mean? Amar Papa explained. Loy, it's excluding lemuute gipuk benishuk. If he hugged and kissed an avodah zarah, right? If he kissed an avodah zarah, so the Gemara says gipuk benishuk demai. How did he kiss the avodah zarah? If that's the way to serve the avodah zarah, you get the death penalty. If that's not the way, you just kissed an avodah zarah. So the guy that did that, he's not going to get the death penalty. So, but the Gemara concludes that it could be that a guy that, according to one opinion, even if he just makes an idol, he's going to get the death penalty. Says the Gemara, one last thing. Dinin ipkid. Dinin b'nei noach ipkid. The Jewish guy is commanded to make courts. Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, a Jew is commanded to make courts, not a guy. Esa mitzvahs savi Yisrael b'mora. The Jews were commanded 10 mitzvahs when they came to Mora. Shava shekibul aleim b'nei noach. 7, they got the 7 mitzvahs b'nei noach. V'hisifu aleim dinim Shabbos kibbut avayim. Dinim d'ksiv sham lo yichayik l'mishpat. Shabbos kibbut avayim d'ksiv kash sivcha sham l'kecha. V'amar Rav Yehuda kash sivcha b'mora. So and the question is, how could you say that dinim was one part of the 7 mitzvahs b'nei noach after the Jews, after the Kriyas Yamsuf, they came to the place of Mora? The Torah tells you that God gave them some commandments even before the Saras Adibras. And those commandments are dinim. One of them is dinim. So how could you say that dinim was given to Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach when it was actually given just to the Jews and not to the Goyim? Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Avur, that the commandment that a Jew has to have capital punishments in front of a judge, 23 judges, and the concept of witnesses and warnings, these special halachas only apply to Jews and don't apply to Goyim. So the Gemara says, if that's true, why does the Brisa say that when the Jews came to Mara, they got the concept of judgments? They already had the concept of judgments from being Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. They just got a few more halachas regarding dinim. That the halacha of dini knossos applies to a yid. It should have said that they added some dinim in the concept. If the Jews always had dinim because they were Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, then it doesn't seem that's what the Bryce is saying. The Bryce is telling you that dinim was not part of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. Elamar Rav Yachav that the Jews got a special din that they're supposed to set up courthouses in every city, in every town, in every city. Says the Gemara of B'nai Moach le'ifkid v'atanik shem shin stav yisrael loishem potim din chol pelach pelach b'chol ivir kach mitstav B'nai Noach loishem potim b'chol pelach pelach b'chol ir. That a Goyim were always like Jews, that just like a Jew was commanded to put a courthouse in every city, a Goy also is supposed to put a courthouse in every city. So what did the Jews get by Mara besides the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach that they're calling dinim? Ela Amar Rava, and we're going to see this tomorrow, and we'll stop here. Rava says, Hi Tana de Be Menashe he, the Mapik Dalid V'ayal Samach. That, in other words, that the Goyim never had dinim as 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. They Dalit Chof, they got Samach Chof, which was Samach Chof, which seen Seris and Kalayim. Dinim and Birkas Hashem, they didn't have. We're going to see more about that tomorrow. That not everybody understands that the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach to be that number that we mentioned before, to be those mitzvahs that we mentioned before. Okay, we'll stop right here.